This is NTV.
Right, good evening Kenya, it's 9 p.m. and you're right in time for our broadcast tonight. It's also Tuesday and Sidebar is lined up for you straight after the news because right here on NTV, news and facts come fast. The hashtag for tonight is NTV Tonight. We have all the stories making headlines both nationally and internationally for you. But first, the headlines.
Tonight, the DPP lays down the law.
Yes, setting up several task forces that are modeled on the American experience.
The double-barreled action in the fight against graft and the filling-in tree.
Also, Kenya's bloated and underwhelming public service.
We are not getting returns on that human resource capital.
How new proposals to cut the flap could change the arithmetic.
Contract will be 3 years, which will be renewable based on satisfactory performance.
Plus, the bitter division of revenue bill fallout.
Well, how can you take a speech to court?
It's back to the drawing board to find an acceptable revenue sharing formula.
Parties will be allowed to go and consult as wide as possible.
Also tonight,
niko na uoga sana.
The mistakes, muddles and mixed messages in the face of an Ebola scare.
The things that we are working on is to ensure that the government spokesperson is the one person who will be able to communicate.
NTV Tonight with Ken Mijungu and Zeynab Ismail.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. Our sign language interpreter this evening is David Agondoa, and Ken Mijungu now gets a co-pilot.
Right,
Excited?
And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Now, in case you had any doubts, the fight against graft is still on, and if anything, it has gotten the much-needed jab from the United States.
The Director of Public Prosecutions, that's Nordin Haji, and his counterpart, the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, are back from Washington, D.C.
While they were there, they forged key partnerships with the U.S. and assure Kenyans a lot is happening behind the scenes, even though nothing is much visible.
The Friday arrests have not taken place recently, and the public show of a fight and might against corruption had taken a break, perhaps because the crime busters, led by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the head of the Criminal Investigations, have been in the United States, forging a stronger international united front in fighting corruption. They met with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Deputy Director David Bowditch, Head of Public Integrity at the Department of Justice Analu Tyrrell, and U.S. Deputy Attorney General Bruce Swartz, and this was not just a front.
I think people don't understand, but they're already helping us. We are setting up several task forces that are modeled on the American experience.
Question many are asking is what is happening locally to cases that have been ongoing?
I think NYS2 is in court and the other cases are in court. It is a bit tedious, I know, maybe because it is very, there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of witnesses and evidence to be sieved through. So Kenyans might not be having the information.
And there are those damn scams. Investigations are said to be ongoing into the 40 billion shillings Itare Dam scam in Nakuru, plus the 380 billion shillings dams in Elgeyo Marakwet, that is Aror, Mbobut and Kimwarer.
The dam cases, the investigations are about to be finished in terms of, I had said earlier that we are going to have it in several phases. So the first phase is almost complete.
As for the recent gold scam, investigators are still collecting evidence.
The DCI is completing on some evidence. We are waiting for individuals who are part of the complainants to come and finish their part of the evidence.
With the current demonetization of some notes, Kenya is also seeking help in tracing proceeds of crime from the U.S., which has termed this country a global hotbed of money laundering. From the recent budget allocations, the DPP received 3 billion shillings, the DCI got 7.9 billion shillings, Auditor General's Office got 5.7 billion shillings, and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission 2.9 billion shillings to help in their collective war on corruption. And if the pledge by the new U.S. ambassador is anything to go by, then there ought to be more results than excuses.
My vision for Kenya is that it becomes the shining star for prosperity and democracy in East Africa.
Well, the offices of the FBI, DCI, ODPP, or EACC will hopefully show more than just their initials and give Kenya and the world a sign that this war on corruption is being won. Mark Masai, NTV.
Right, from the two crime busters to where the bust ends, and that's in the court. And Advocate Tom Ojenda is protesting against the amendment of the law regulating lawyer-client confidentiality as contained in the Finance Bill 2019.
Well, the former Judicial Service Commissioner, who represents a number of high-profile clients in various cases in court, argues that the changes, if effected, threaten the independence of the legal profession, among other issues. NTV's Seth Olale with the details.
In a 13-page letter addressed to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, and his Senate counterpart, Kenneth Lusaka, Senior Counsel Tom Ojenda wants lawyers protected from disclosing details of vital information on their clients, including transactions involving money held by law firms on clients' behalf. The amended Section 48 of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act in the Finance Bill 2019, among others, seeks to compel advocates to report to authorities the money they handle on behalf of their clients. The bill, which was published last week, also aims at having independent legal professions among reporting agencies to whom the anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism rules shall be enforced. Government investigating agencies have seemingly been frustrated in the fight against corruption by individuals and entities who use law firms to hide proceeds of corruption. Some corrupt individuals are also alleged to have acquired properties through law firms in form of advocate-client confidentiality.
There are known culprits who exploit the court process and its judgments to escape from the consequences of their economic crimes against the people of this republic.
Ojenda argues that the proposed amendments will make lawyers become agents of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, which they are not mandated to do. The former Judicial Service Commissioner also argues that the bill, if passed into law, will offend the principle of advocate-client privilege. In addition, Ojenda states that the changes threaten the independence of the legal profession and target and negatively discriminate against the legal profession in Kenya, among other issues. The former Law Society of Kenya chairman, who was arrested late last year over alleged financial misappropriation and fraudulent dealings while at Mumias Sugar Company, represents a number of high-profile clients in various cases in court. They include former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero, former National Lands Commission Chairman Muhammad Swazuri, and the National Lands Commission, among others. After being published, The Finance Bill 2019 next moves to the finance committees of both the National Assembly and the Senate for deliberation. Seth Olale, NTV.
You know, Tom Ujenda has been fighting for lawyers for the last 5 years at the Judicial Service Commission, where he represented them.
Right.
And now he is
Fighting for them outside court?
outside court, yeah, because
That's
it's still,
very
this is still representing their interest, but now in court.
Outside the Judicial Service Commission. That's very interesting.
Exactly, so he's still fighting. Well, let's move on. The government will, beginning the 1st of July this year, freeze hiring of entry-level positions on permanent and pensionable terms in favor of 3-year renewable contracts.
Now, the shift to the performance contracting model is part of the new measures that the government is banking on to tame the ballooning public sector wage bill.
And Victor Kiprop reports on the government's effort to tame the runaway wage bill, which the Salaries and Remuneration Commission admits is unsustainable.
For the tens of thousands of graduates entering the job market in Kenya every year, taking up employment in the public sector has always been regarded as an easier route to guaranteed job security as opposed to the private sector. This perceived guarantee could soon be no more for those who aim to join government as it shifts to a performance contracting model for entry-level jobs.
First contract will be 3 years, which will be renewable based on satisfactory performance. We wanted to desist from making people feel that it's only the public service that can provide that employment.
According to a public sector wage bill report released today, government spending on salaries and allowances to public servants is expected to hit 790 billion shillings in this financial year, up from 526 billion shillings in the 2013-2014 financial year, taking the public sector wage bill to ordinary revenue ratio to about 43%. The new measures are expected to help the government cut down on its pension burden, which has been growing from 27.6 billion shillings in 2014 to 63.9 billion shillings last year.
At 8.29% relative to the GDP, the national wage bill is some 0.79 percentage points above the known best practice average of 7.5%.
With 32 counties having spent more than 35% of their revenue on salaries and allowances last year, policymakers say that higher wage bills are hurting delivery of services as less funds are available for development purposes.
We are managing the human capital of the Republic. The capital we have spent a lot of money educating, acquiring skills and so on, but we are not getting returns on that human resource capital.
With the already high rates of unemployment and a bloated workforce that is constantly agitating for more pay, Kenya is now chasing the tricky balance of taming its ballooning public sector wage bill without necessarily retrenching or employing any other measure that could occasion more wage-related strikes. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business, Nairobi.
All right, so you've heard it from that story by Victor Kiprop. In July, that is next month, the government proposes to hire civil servants on a 3-year contract instead of its usual permanent and pensionable basis.
So let's find the reasoning behind this. And the proponents of this policy believe it's a move in the right direction. It ensures that the workers accomplish more, improve service delivery, reduce the wage bill, and are only promoted on the basis of performance. But there are also the opponents who reason that it will lead to employee exploitation, increased corruption, unrest, demotivation, and underperformance.
So who is right, and why would the government, which is the biggest employer, decide to walk down this path? Read about what this means to the current and potential civil servants and the impact on the wage bill in your copy of the Daily Nation tomorrow.
And so on Opinion Count tonight, we ask, what are your thoughts on the government's proposal to tame the swelling public sector wage bill?
Share your thoughts with us at NTV Kenya, at Zeynab Ismail, at Ken Mijungu. The hashtag is NTV Tonight.
Right, to other stories, an Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council meeting, commonly referred to as IBEC, once again failed to agree on the equitable share between the national government and the county governments as governors read mischief in the national government's dealings.
The meeting, chaired by Deputy President William Ruto, involving governors, has also caused a storm within the Council of Governors who believe the government is taking them for a ride and is not ready to give them more monies to counties.
So NTV's political affairs reporter Kennedy Muredi is reporting and has the details of this tug of war that saw some governors boycott today's meeting.
According to some governors, there is a simmering cold war against the national government, which they accuse of casually treating devolution, especially due to the failure to increase monies to counties. Out of 47 governors, only 8, including COG Chairman Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, attended the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council meeting, commonly referred to as IBEC, going against a decision reached on Monday during a meeting at their Delta House offices. The feeling among governors is that the national government is not keen on their needs and now chooses to give counties what they deem fit. A media briefing after the meeting painted a picture of a team seemingly agreeing on the way forward, but short of hitting the bullseye.
We have agreed that an engagement be undertaken between the council and Treasury.
Parties will be allowed to go and consult as wide as possible so that by the time we meet on 24th, we are able to make a decision on that particular day.
We are very optimistic that we should be able to reach an agreement, looking at all avenues and looking at where we can partner with conditional grants and many other avenues that we can use to make sure that we settle on a figure that is agreeable both to the counties and to the National Treasury.
Governors who spoke to NTV say the mere fact that a way forward on the issue of monies to counties was not on the agenda for today's meeting irked most of them, and a collective decision was taken to boycott the IBEC meeting altogether. Another matter bothering governors is the fact that they believe the national government is pulling strings at the mediation table between the National Assembly and the Senate, thus being insincere in their engagement. A mediation committee of both houses failed to agree on an amount to counties as the Senate came down from 335 billion shillings to 327 billion shillings, while the National Assembly upped the monies from 310 billion shillings to 316 billion shillings and stuck there. One of the options the Senate is exploring if all other avenues fail is moving to court to push their agenda.
You can go to TV stations and challenge, but surely to say that you have gone to the extent of going to court to challenge a speech, that is taking the joke too far, isn't it?
The government has insisted there is no more money to give to counties, while county governments hold the fact that the national government is still funding functions that should have been devolved and holding monies at the top. Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
Well, it is a call that so many Kenyans have now become accustomed to. It first started with the NASA coalition before the Kuro Court-led Third Way Alliance picked up the cue.
But as the debate on whether to change the constitution or not gathers steam, Katiba Institute, an NGO specializing on constitutional matters, is warning that the move may not bear much and instead wants the constitution implemented fully before any contemplation of change, as NTV's Silas Apollo now reports.
When the constitution was promulgated in 2010, many jubilated, terming it a new dawn for the country that had become a prisoner of backward and non-progressive laws. With it came the division of government into county and national governments, a bicameral parliament, and a reformed judiciary, and much more. But that change has also come with its challenges. Those critical of the constitution have consistently called for its amendment to reduce the high cost of running it, as well as seal gaps. And as the debate on whether to change or not to change the constitution continues, Katiba Institute is of the opinion that perhaps it's time we audited the implementation of the document to gauge whether we're on the right track 9 years after it was voted in.
We believe the Constitution is not working as it should be because there's not been full implementation.
Nkonge argues that while some clauses in the Constitution should be reviewed, that can only be done once a review of what is working and not working is done.
The question is, should we first fully implement the Constitution before we talk about critical changes to the Constitution? Or should we change it now when we don't even know the full potential that it could have?
At least 2 political outfits are on the path of a constitutional change, though one is not yet certain: the Building Bridges Initiative and the Punguza Mzigo Initiative by the Third Way Alliance. The Ekuru Aukot-led party want a 7 one-term presidency, reduced number of MPs, as well as reduced salaries. The Building Bridges Initiative, which is a brainchild of President Uhuru Kenyatta, and ODM leader Raila Odinga, has also been gathering views from Kenyans on whether to change or not to change the country's governing structure. Katiba Institute, on the other hand, says that an audit of the Constitution revealed that part of the problematic clauses are the tug-of-war between the Senate and the National Assembly, poor facilitation of counties, reforms in the judiciary and the police, among others.
By and large, we believe the structure of governance really, there's no evidence to change it in the way that has been suggested by a number of political actors.
Silas Apollo, NTV.
Can that report there by Silas Apollo will be forming the basis of our discussion on cyber this evening, right?
Exactly. Exactly at 10 p.m. That's one of the things we're discussing. Remember, today it's checkmate. So what basically we're looking at is what's happening in the Constitution to do or not to do. And then we are going to throw this panel into the works. And we're also going to talk about what happened over the weekend when the president had addressed down on some leaders. But you're asking who's coming. Kamodo Waiganjo, who is a seasoned lawyer, was in the Constitutional Implementation Team. Junet Mohammed Suna is Member of Parliament. We have Miruru Waweru, who is the chairman of the Third Way Alliance, and Wanjiru Gikonyo, who is the national coordinator for TISA. They're all here.
So very interesting debate to watch out for, right?
Kabisa.
Indeed.
At 10.
All right, so we're going to take a very short break here on NTV tonight. A lot still coming and lined up for you, so you want to stay tuned.
Who wants to answer? Mary?
And welcome back. Our sign language interpreter tonight is David Agondoa, if you're just joining us.
Thank you so much for watching. Now, State House now says government's communication will be strictly done through the office of the National Government Spokesman, Colonel Cyrus Odhiambo Oguna.
This follows the near shambolic handling of the suspected Ebola outbreak in the country that saw a disjointed communication effort leading to panic spread in the country.
Hours after the country heaved a collective sigh of relief over the Ebola scare, the town where it all started is slowly recovering from that alarm. It was here that a woman with what medics in the county termed as Ebola-like symptoms was admitted. The first hospital of contact with the patient quickly deserted within hours of the admission. But it wasn't just the management of the first contact with the suspected case that has left many concerned. Information about the situation has also exposed the seeming confusion in the government's communication channels. First to announce the unfolding situation was the county of first contact with the patient. Kericho's chief public relations officer sent out a written communication detailing the situation as it was. And then it was free for all.
Just in case it is, but as it is right now, we don't think it's Ebola, but we don't want to take chances, and that is why we've taken samples. No confirmed case. Secondly, even if it ended up being Ebola, we have the capacity, we have the professionals in the medical field here in Kericho.
The Ministry of Health only joining in the fray hours later after the communication confusion had reigned.
There isn't enough sensitization. If we can speak about Ebola in terms of our preparedness, in terms of what to look out for, the better for all of us.
The confirmation of the outcome of the tests on the patient coming late in the evening through a press release from the CS for Health.
News for all of us that it is it's not Ebola, as had been suspected.
But even that has done little to assuage the public's doubt.
Sababu nasikia ule mama amewekwa kwa rumu yake peke yake. Sasa Ebola ni ugonjwa tu kama wengine.
Ninashangaa serikali wanasema hakuna Ebola, lakini kulingana na vile tumesikia kuhusu hospitali yenyewe Ebola iko.
The missteps have caught the attention of State House.
Things that the county wanted to do was to be the first ones to report and say that we have identified an Ebola case. And like you said, that there were many avenues that spoke. But one of the things that we are working on is to ensure that the government spokesperson, the retired Colonel Oguna, is the one person who will be able to communicate. And those are measures that are being taken to ensure that that doesn't happen again. So you can be assured that it's something that we're looking into.
Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Ken, did you panic?
About Ebola in
Yes.
the country?
Yeah.
Absolutely, didn't you?
Not really.
You weren't?
No.
Really?
I was hopeful that God will protect us all.
But that doesn't mean you don't take precaution.
Yeah.
Do you know the signs and symptoms, which is very
I
important
have.
for this?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So away from that, controversial blogger Robert Alai was this morning arrested by DCI officers a day after he posted gory images of administration police officers killed by an IED planted by suspected Al-Shabaab militia on Saturday on his social media pages.
Now, the blogger was on Tuesday interrogated by the anti-terrorism police at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, headquarters along Kiambu Road.
In tweets, Alai had published pictures of the scene where a police vehicle ran over an explosive device in Wajir on Saturday, killing at least 7 policemen.
And on Monday, police spokesperson Charles Owino, through a statement, warned internet users against circulating the images, terming the acts unpatriotic and supportive of the actions of the Al-Shabaab.
The police also said it was not the right way to convey the message to the families of the fallen police officers. The act was also condemned by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission.
However, in response, Alai told off the NCIC and asked them to deal with the real issues and that he will not be silenced. Alai has since ceded ground on police demands and pulled down the gory images.
Right, and away from that and to the corridors of justice, the Magistrates Court has suspended judgment in a case where 4 suspects are charged with executing the Garissa University terror attack in 2015 that killed 148 people, many of them Garissa University students. The suspects, Mohammed Abdikadir Hassan, Sahal Hussein and Rashid Charles Mberesero, are facing charges punishable by life imprisonment under the Kenyan law.
The court had said the 4 colluded with others and were jointly found guilty of conspiracy to kill the 144 students and university officials in one of the worst terror attacks in the country's history.
Well, elsewhere, witnessed in Evans Kidero's 213 million shillings graft case has told the court that the money could not have been paid out without the approval of Treasury and the Controller of Budget.
The head of the audit at Nairobi County, Edward Gishanga, while undergoing cross-examination by senior counsel James Orengo, said the payments in question did not arise during the year 2014-2015 annual audits when the said amount was paid to the 2 companies.
He added that the matter was not reported in the annual reports or questioned by the Auditor General, hence there was no money lost.
And finally, the High Court has declined to grant Joseph Irungu, alias Joey, bail for the 2nd time, saying that witnesses under protection feel threatened if he be released before they testify.
Justice James Wakiaga dismissed Irungu's application for a bail and ordered that everyone placed under witness protection testify before he can consider bond terms. He further said that after taking the evidence of witness under protection, the court will also consider pre-bail report from the probation office.
The prosecution will be calling 32 witnesses, among them experts in the trial of TV journalist Jackie Maribe and her co-accused Joe Irungu.
And now from the courts, the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU, is calling for an independent investigation into the death of Simon Nduru Gitai, an inmate at the Naivasha Maximum Prison.
Simon died in unclear circumstances on Thursday last week, with his family accusing prison warders at the prison of beating the inmate to death.
The prison's management, however, says the prisoner was asthmatic and had been admitted at the prison clinic before being transferred to the Naivasha Sub-County Hospital. NTV's Sharon Baranga reports.
Naivasha Maximum Prison inmate Simon Nduru Gitahi died a week after his father talked to him. Simon, who was serving a life sentence, is reported to have been beaten by prison warders on Wednesday last week, which resulted in his death. This news caught the attention of the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU, that is now calling for independent investigations into the issue. In a statement, IMLU states, quote, "The actions of the prison warders on the 13th June 2019 point to a clear contravention of Article 25 of the Constitution of Kenya, which states the freedom from torture and cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment shall not be limited." It goes on to say at Article 26 that every person has the right to life. A person shall not be deprived of life intentionally except to the extent authorized by this Constitution or other written law. End of quote. Simon's family has accused the warders at the prison of killing their son in prison. The prison's management, however, says the prisoner was asthmatic and had been admitted at the prison clinic before being transferred to the Naivasha Sub-County Hospital.
Mtu asiseme ni ugonjwa, hiyo ni uongo. Tarehe mwezi hii niliongea naye tarehe 8. Kwani aligojeka na siku 2 na akakufa.
IMLU wants prison warders and any other person found liable for the death of Simon to be held accountable for their actions upon completion of investigations. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Right, time now for another break on NTV tonight. But when we come back, Julian Samboko will be right here with business. Stay with us.
The National Assembly Transport Committee has thrown its weight behind the push to have Kenya Airways nationalized as a way to steer the national carrier away from the turbulence in its financial performance. This puts the committee on a collision course with shareholders who rejected the nationalization proposal in the annual general meeting held this month. In its report tabled before the National Assembly this afternoon, the Transport Committee rejects the proposed public-private partnership between Kenya Airways and the Kenya Airports Authority, stating that, and I quote, "The proposal does not present a viable option for restoring Nairobi as the civil aviation hub of choice in Africa and treating Kenya Airways and the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport as strategic national assets," end of quote. In its stead, the committee anchors its proposal to have Kenya Airways nationalized on the national carrier's financial woes, which saw it post a 7.6 billion shilling loss in the year ended December 2018. The committee warns, and I quote, "The government and the people of Kenya stand to lose the most in the event the trend is left to continue," noting that KQ debtors enjoy a sovereign guarantee of 75 billion shillings, end of quote. Alongside nationalization, the committee proposes that the government establishes an aviation holding company with 4 subsidiaries being JKIA Company to manage the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Kenya Airports Authority with a revised mandate of managing airports other than JKIA, Kenya Airways as the national carrier, and a centralized aviation services institute. To reverse the fortunes of KQ, the committee recommends that upon nationalization, the following steps be taken. The aviation holding company and its subsidiaries be granted favorable tax concessions. The aviation holding company and KQ be exempt from paying import declaration fees on aircraft. The aviation holding company and its subsidiaries be exempt from customs duty on aircraft-related parts, and to zero-rate all supplies made or received by the aviation holding company and its subsidiaries. And away from the aviation sector, President Uhuru Kenyatta has this evening signed into law the Supplementary Appropriation Bill to release funds for the government expenditure for the financial year ending June 30th. The law mandates the National Treasury to release 161 billion shillings from the Consolidated Fund to various government departments. The funds are categorized into recurrent expenditure, which adds up to 108 billion shillings, and development expenditure, which totals 54 billion shillings, respectively. The Appropriation Act authorizes, among other things, the release of 8 billion shillings for the settlement of pending government bills. Food security experts have expressed concern over the declining budgetary allocation to the agriculture sector, which they say is putting the country, which is barely recovering from drought stress, at risk. The experts say the government's latest allocation is not financing crop development, but non-food areas, and thus not directly easing the cost of food basket. Lillian Kiari with more on that story.
This year's allocation to agriculture, food and nutritional security stood at 2.9% of total voted expenditure. This is a decrease from last year's budgetary allocation, and experts have now raised concerns, saying that the government is not serious on this sector despite it contributing over 30% to the GDP. The rising cost of food continues to be a major source of worry for many Kenyan households, and even though the government says it is working on policies to reverse the trend, experts in the agriculture industry feel that the government is not being honest.
Since 2016, 2017, we've seen allocations declining from 3.5% to the current allocation of 2.9%.
Food and agriculture as a sector is not a national priority. If something is a priority, you need about 10% of your expenditure or 15% of expenditure.
Treasury CS Henry Rotich, however, counters this by asserting that the allocation in agriculture is above 13%, boosted by county allocation.
If you want to get the full picture of what we are spending in agriculture, you have to add what is the national government allocating to agriculture on the functions that they are doing. You have to add that to what the county government are spending. You have to add irrigation projects. You have to look at blue economy and aquaculture.
Route to Food argues that most of the money allocated to agriculture is not targeted at financing consumables and is instead directed towards cushioning the export industry, such as the 3 billion shillings for coffee and the 1 billion shillings for the miraa subsector. The experts argue that this kind of financing will do nothing to improve food security.
Not only are you spending less in total, but even the little you're spending, you're shifting it to non-food sectors, non-food areas. Galana Kulalo, I've mentioned before, again, will not fly because we do not have the storage water in the first place.
Lillian Kiarie, NTV.
Now let's get back to the issue of pending bills by the government. Now the Treasury is set to release 65 billion shillings to pay pending bills by the end of this month. This was announced earlier this morning during an Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council meeting chaired by Deputy President William Ruto. The Deputy President has assured the private sector that the process of releasing the cash was in its final stages. Ruto said suppliers whose payments have been flagged as ineligible by the Auditor General will have their issues heard and addressed by a special appeal committee in every county. The meeting was attended by Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich, Auditor General Edward Oko, Controller of Budget Agnes Odhiambo, and the Council of Governors Chairman Wycliffe Oparanya. And back to matters food. Now, food experts have raised the alarm over the presence of harmful pesticides in the Kenyan market, despite being banned in other parts of the world. The pesticides contain neonicotinoids, as an active ingredient, which is a chemical that is derived from nicotine and can cause health complications in humans. The experts now want the government to remove any products with the product from circulation in the market.
It's 32% of the chemical pesticides that are banned in Europe are available in Kenya. The Pesticides Control Product Board has registered 718 products, I think of which 41 contain the harmful pesticide or chemical called active ingredient called neonicotinoid. The names of these products are Thunder, Bulldog Star.
And on to matters tech, Facebook is planning to launch a cryptocurrency called Libra next year as part of its wider efforts to expand beyond social networking into e-commerce and global payments. In line with that objective, the California-based company has created Calibra, a subsidiary which will offer digital wallets connected to messaging platforms, to messengers such as WhatsApp and the rest, and to save and spend Libras. Facebook is betting it can squeeze revenue out of these messaging services through transactions and payments, something already happening on Chinese social apps such as WeChat. Facebook hopes to not only power transactions between established consumers and businesses around the globe, but to offer some consumers access to financial services for the first time. Coming at a time when concerns over the privacy have escalated for the company, Facebook is likely to face an uphill task assuring financial regulators that Libra will be fully secure. And that's it from the business desk. Up next is the financial report.
Every footballer dreams of playing.
And welcome back to NTV tonight. Before I read the next story, Zeynab, do you borrow money from the mobile apps?
Actually, I've never done that before.
All right. But there is the person who borrowed and it ended badly. And that's the story that we are going to. That's a man from Gitemu village in Kandara, Muranga County, who committed suicide over alleged inability to repay a 3,000 shilling loan, which he borrowed through a mobile phone app.
Now, 25-year-old Samuel Ngari was found dangling from the roof of his room on Monday evening after he left his parents at their farm where they had gone to tend to crops. According to the father, Robinson Kimani said they were together with their son in the farm before he excused himself without telling him where he was going.
And locals say that the young man had earlier expressed concerns about his inability to meet the deadline for repaying a soft loan he had acquired from a popular mobile phone lending application.
Ya ukuta ndiye aliona jaketi ile alikuwa amevaa akiwa kwa kitchen kwa sababu hizo nyumba zimeshikana.
That's quite an unfortunate incident there.
Very unfortunate.
Well, in other stories making headlines around the world, the Health Authority of Southwest China's Sichuan province has organized several hospitals and disaster medical assistance teams to provide timely treatment for people suffering from injuries following a powerful 6.0 magnitude earthquake that rattled southwest China outside Yibin in Sichuan province.
12 people died and 134 others were seriously injured after the incident late on Monday. An early warning alarm system was triggered in the provincial capital, Chengdu, about 1 minute before the earthquake struck.
大概4点钟左右，这里正在进行的是一些临时帐篷的搭建。那我们现在看到的是，已经天亮了，街上的人比较多，而且陆陆续续来了很多救援的人员。我们刚才说一个细节，大家来看一下，就在我们。
Football team was in the past hour scheduled to land in Paris, France, ahead of their return to the Africa Cup of Nations after a 15-year absence. Kenya is set to play Algeria in its opener on Sunday, and coach Sebastien Minier has his work cut out to name the best squad and prep them mentally.
More important is how we can react, we can perform during a competition as AFCON. We don't have an answer. I don't know under pressure when it will be possible to perform, but we are on the way to think also for the best first 11 at the beginning of the game against Algeria, and after to try to bring them on the field with good motivation and full confidence.
Now, given the historical pedigree of Morocco, Ivory Coast and South Africa, Group D is a tough pool with Namibia also in the frame. Morocco, who have the only coach to have won the Africa Cup of Nations with 2 different countries, will hope that he can work his magic to make the third, while Ivory Coast continue to rebuild as South Africa yearns for former glory.
Ivory Coast's AFCON 2017 group stage exit fell way below the standard set 2 years before that when the Elephants lifted the AFCON title. Ivory Coast have played in 23 AFCONs, making the final 4 times with 2 wins over Ghana in 1992 and 2015. All 4 finals went to post-match penalties. Ivorian head coach Ibrahim Kamara will depend on the likes of Crystal Palace sensation Wilfred Zaha, Tottenham's Serge Aurier and Wilfred Bony to fly the Elephants flag, with the defence an issue as Eric Bailey is out injured. Their pre-AFCON preps included a 1-0 loss to Uganda Cranes and a 3-1 win over Comoros. Ajax star Hakim Ziyech headlines the Moroccan squad after his scintillating season for the Dutch Giants, which saw him register 21 goals and 24 assists across all competitions. Despite this being the Atlas Lions' 18th appearance on the continental stage, they have won the trophy only once in 1976 and to improve. Bafana played out to a 0-0 draw against Ghana in a friendly over the weekend and will face Angola in their last friendly on Wednesday. The squad lacks standout names, with Belgian-based Percy Tau and French-based Lebo Mothiba expected to provide the goal threat. The minnows in the group are Namibia, who are making a third appearance at the continental stage after an 11-year absence. The Brave Warriors have a South African flavour, with 8 of the players named by coach Ricardo Manetti currently playing in South Africa's first or second division. Players to look out for are Dion Hotto of Bidvest Wits, Benson Shilongo of Ismail, and Blackburn Rovers' Ryan Nambe. The first game in the group will see Ivory Coast take on South Africa on Monday.
Road to AFCON 2019 in association with GoTV.
Experience the unforgettable with the Total Africa Cup of Nations with Supersport on GoTV. GoTV, live it, love it.
The national 15s rugby team, the Kenya Simbas' new head coach Paul Odera, faces his first test when he leads his charges to the annual Kenya versus Uganda tournament, the Elgon Cup. Odera has named a number of his Chipu under-20 squad in the team, including Dominic Coulson, Jeff Mutuku and Emmanuel Silungi. The new-look team will be captained by KCB's Peter Kilonza in Saturday's first leg of the Elgon Cup against Uganda Cranes in Kisumu. Meanwhile, Kabrash Sugar Uganda fullback Philip Wakarach will miss Saturday's match after being left out of the 23-man travelling squad. In addition to the match being played outside of the capitals for the first time, the match will also feature the ladies' sides battling it out. 1994 Safari Rally World Rally Championship winner Ian Duncan has confirmed his entry for next month's event and makes a return after skipping last year's competition. Duncan will be navigated by Anthony Nielsen, and he'll face a titanic battle against defending champion Carl Tundo, double Africa champion Manvir Barian, the fast-rising Onkarai, former winner Baldev Chaga and Zambian champion Leroy Gomez. 43 competitors have so far confirmed their entry, including head of Presidential Delivery Unit Nzioka Waita, who will be navigated by former NTV business reporter Laban Cliff. Competitors from Italy, Belgium, Uganda, Tanzania and Burundi will compete in the rally, which is a candidate event for the 2020 World Rally Championship. Michel Platini, the former president of UEFA, has been arrested over the decision to award the 2022 World Cup to Qatar. The former France captain and 3-time Ballon d'Or winner was detained by French police as part of the investigation into corruption. Ineos's build-up to the Tour de France faced another setback, with Geraint Thomas crashing at a race days before teammate Chris Froome also crashed. Thomas crashed out of the Tour de Suisse at the stage 4 of the competition. The Tour de France champion
right, thank you so much, Sean Caravelis. Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin this hour. It has been fantastic, and our sign language interpreter this evening was David Agondo. My name is Zeynab, Ismail, and Ken Mijungu. You're off to Sidebar now.
Off to Sidebar, and Sidebar comes straight. Thanks very much, Zeynab. And Sidebar comes straight after this, because we have to discuss all that matters to you. And tonight we're discussing about the Constitution. The question we're asking, should we implement the Constitution? And if we're not implementing the Constitution, what are we supposed to be doing with it? Should we review the Constitution? So those important questions will be answered tonight. And my guest already in studio, Wanjiru Gikonyo, who is the National Coordinator of TISA, joins me in studio. Kamotho Waiganjo, a lawyer, constitutional lawyer. And I have Miriru Waweru, who is the chairperson of Third Way Alliance. We expect Junet Mohammed, the Member of Parliament for Suna East, to join us shortly. So stay with us. When we come back, that conversation begins.